Well, I'm very pleased to be joined by someone that I've admired and followed for a long time, probably 20 plus years since I was a teenager, and his name is Eric Bibb. There he is.
Hi, Dave.
It's such a privilege to talk to you. Every time we chat, I just can't quite believe I'm talking to you. But it's been wonderful to get to know you and Ulrika over the last uh, I don't know, 9 months, maybe something like that now.
Something like that, yeah. The
Yeah.
same, Dave. The same.
Oh, well, thank you, man. It's like a dream project. This Held by Trees um, thing for me has just led to so many amazing uh, connections with musicians that I've long admired and listened to. And man, it's quite emotional for me because for so long your voice and your music has been a guide to me, not just in the style of music that you make, but actually the content of your lyrics and just the heart behind the songs has been very powerful and impacted me a lot. In fact, I was on television once talking about you on BBC One.
What can I say? I've been like you, Dave. I've been following my star, uh, which is, a six-string star. I've been following this music path since I was, very young, and it's led me to wonderful places and wonderful people, including you. We meet ourselves, and it's wonderful to hear a tribe, uh, you know, clinging together, kind of making music together. And I'm really happy for this opportunity to join you in a project that also reconnects me with people I've known and played with, and new people as well. And that's the beautiful thing about this musical thing. Um, we are, with today's technology, able to actually uh, bring together birds of a feather in all kinds of independently produced projects
Mm.
that really, in time, will play their part in transforming the world we live in, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, it kind of feels like there's an an ease to connection now
Mm,
across the world because you're in
mm,
Sweden
yeah.
and I'm here in England on the south coast of England,
Mm,
and then we've been working with Martin Ditcham, who's over in Brazil, and we've got contributors in Holland. Um, so it's and none of that has been difficult. That's all been a flow.
right.
Uh,
Definitely worth
it's,
pointing out because we're talking about something that people in a generation before us could not take for granted by any means. I mean, yeah, this is we're in very challenging times, but we're also in miraculous times where the uh, opportunities and ways of being in contact with each other have been enhanced by a new technology that has uh, nefarious uses and
mhm.
divine purposes as well. So we're there. It's like, let's go.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You talk about the times, and I think your music has always been sort of like a voice in the wilderness, prophetically speaking into the times, often timeless themes that are always relevant. And if you look as far back as even the prophets of old, they're talking about the same thing. They're talking about justice. They're
Mm,
talking about peace,
mm,
and they're talking about reconciliation between people,
mm,
and finding commonality
mm,
and finding humanity and divinity within all of us, and reaching for that common ground where we can stand together. And you say birds, like birds of a feather flocking together, and there's a call almost on the wind at the moment, I think, in terms of the artistic community, the songwriters,
You're right.
because we're seeing, perhaps particularly since 2016, we're seeing more of a rise in terms of the outspokenness, perhaps of the far ends of the spectrum
Mm-hmm.
politically, not
Yeah.
just the right,
Mm. No, I
but
understand.
the left as well. And I think, talking of my own perhaps worldview, which I think you share, really is that there's another way which is neither left nor right, and it's the divine kingdom, as it were. It's the
Yes,
it's
sir.
the economy of God, which is neither Democrat or Republican, conservative or Labour, um, fascist or communist. It transcends every world system. It's within all of us.
Indeed,
Uh,
indeed.
and I look at your themes on your latest album, Dear America, and I wonder if you could sum up the album in terms of theme in maybe just one or two sentences. What would you say?
That's
How would you
that's
describe it?
that's a challenging question, but I'll attempt to answer it in a few sentences. Dear America is a love letter to the country of my birth, encouraging us to pay attention to our history and the truth about our history and how it's affected uh, our current society and even the societies of many parts of the world, because America has been uh, and perhaps still in some ways a beacon of some kind of better future.
Mm,
It's always held that promise. I'm not sure right now we're shining as we should be, but we're learning. We're learning. And I hope that my album, Dear America, will contribute to the learning part of the curve. I think we need to learn more about who we are and be truthful about who we are and learn to be more loving.
mm.
It's basically that. It's that.
Yeah. And if I look at the song titles, they sort of give a clue. Um, Whole World's Got the Blues, Dear America, the song, which is really deep. It's deeply bluesy in a really wonderful kind of old-fashioned way. If that's not a
Yeah, yeah, old school. Go there, man. I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then
That's
as the
that's
album progresses, it starts to take on, I feel like, more and more hope
mm,
as the album goes on. I mean, it's track 8, Black and White and Black, is profound with the lyrics there. I mean, you're pulling no punches, are you? You're not being you're not being evasive. You're tackling
no,
things.
I had to hit it head on, but
Mm,
with the energy of love behind it, because
yeah,
really, this is the only way.
yeah.
Whatever else is just flag waving, and I'm not about that. I'm really about trying to keep a conversation going that will hopefully lead us to a better place, amongst each other.
And
Um,
that's where the album gets to, is a better place, isn't it? Because you're sort of there's a lament in the earlier tracks up until sort of we're getting to talking about a train part 1 and 2, and then Love's Kingdom, and then finally the Oneness of Love. And it, for me, it sounds like as the music unfolds throughout the album, it gets more and more funky and modern sounding, and
yes,
sort of
sir. Yes, sir. You're very, very, very astute in your observations. I think it's so wonderful to hear somebody get it, because this is all with, no, this is all with conscious intent,
mm,
at least, and more. But yeah, it's nice because, yeah, we're wanting to communicate with this song, with this
It makes you want to
message.
get up and dance by the end.
Great, 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 great. Yeah,
It's
you
celebration.
know, yeah. Somebody said, who was it? It was a wonderful poet. I think it was Alice Walker who said, in times, in challenging times, a great change. It's definitely time for dancing. Something like that. And yeah, we need to really get to that common ground that predates, modernity, where somehow, in our bones, we kind of knew what was right, and we need to reconnect.
Reminds me of one of my favorite songs a good friend of mine, Martin Smith, wrote,
Mm,
with the line, "Dancers who dance upon injustice,"
mm,
and that sense of holding hands together,
mm.
dancing upon injustice.
Yeah, until it becomes justice. Yeah, I hear you.
That's it. I mean, you got Tommy Sims here on Love's Kingdom,
Mhm.
quite a legend.
What a
Um,
musician! What a musician! What a wonderful soul who uses music as a kind of healing force. Through the wand of his musicality. He's something else, man.
yeah, I mean, probably
And it
one of his
doesn't
best
matter.
known tracks would be Philadelphia
Yeah,
with Bruce Springsteen,
yeah, yeah.
which I met Tommy once. We
Oh, is
hung
that
out.
right?
We hung
Wow,
out briefly about 10 years ago,
great. I'm glad to hear that.
and he told me the story of basically what we're hearing on the Streets of Philadelphia track is the demo. There's not
No
much
surprise.
more on it.
Wow, wow. That's
I
that's
think Bruce Springsteen came in and did one or two takes of the vocal on
right.
the drum pattern, and they just didn't feel like they needed to put live drums over it, and just the simple chord progression with the pads and things. It just had that haunting, desolate feel to it.
Yeah,
So
it's an iconic
Tommy's
track.
an impressive guy. He's a very cool guy.
A lot of things you can say about Mr. Tommy Sims. He's a very warm-hearted brother, and his sensitivity as a musician, I don't know the equal of that. He's way up there. Yeah.
And tell me about Lisa Mills, who
Mm.
sings on the Oneness of Love at the end of the album.
Lisa has a voice that really captivated me when I first heard it at a festival in Norway. We shared a venue. It was a church gig, but it was part of a blues festival. And I
Sounds
was,
like my kind of thing.
I was just, happy to be in the audience and being able to see some of my friends and colleagues at work, and it was the first time I'd heard Lisa, and she was playing guitar and singing in a way that really touched me. And I just said to her, in the green room afterwards, I said, let's keep in touch. I would love to collaborate with you someday. And she said, yeah, and we exchanged details. And this song, Oneness of Love, which was not originally intended for this album, but which we realized belonged right there where it is, uh, sort of later in the game, we decided, wow, this would be a great duet. And who do you think you would like to sing with? And my mind just went to, this recent discovery, Lisa Mills, who had a voice that something about it. It was the language she was speaking, where she was from, the way she looked, culturally. There was common ground, and there was, you know, uh, differences that are right in the middle of my songwriting.
Mm.
So yeah, we just decided, yeah, let's call Lisa, and she happened to be nearby when we were in New York, and we were able to get together and have a great, great, great meeting uh, in this song. So I'm so happy that she was able to do it, and wish her all the best. More people should know about
Mm.
her. Mm.
The the arc of your career is interesting to me because you did an album in the 70s, Rainbow People,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a long gap between that and really what became a prolific career, sort of beginning in the early 90s.
Mm.
Um, I mean, not many artists can sort of claim such a prolific, I mean, you are prolific,
I reckon.
career as yourself. How deep is that well inside of you? I mean, have you ever felt like you've got anywhere near the bottom of what to write about and what to sing about?
Um, I haven't felt that feeling that the bottom of the well is nigh.
Mm, mm,
I've felt continually supported, nurtured, and empowered by a connection to a time when people around me, my family, my dad, my mom, their friends, were connected to some seriously uh, influential songs and music genres. You know, this Americana thing,
mm,
uh, going from work songs and older Delta blues through wonderful gospel music and everything else and what's known as Americana, all of that involved in one kind of historical expression of collision of cultures.
mm,
Those are my roots, and they are very tenacious, powerful, long reaching roots which have influenced so much of the world. And I happen to be, born at a time when the appreciation of that music was in a kind of renaissance. And that nutrition has really kept me going, Dave, for as long as I can remember. And I don't see the bottom of that well. Um, I see us utilizing this wonderful tradition, which is representative of a collision of cultures. And that's what we're in the middle of in the modern world, a collision of cultures. And you can consider it a blessing or you consider it something, uh, you know, negative. I consider it a blessing. I think we're all one. I think we're supposed to get to know each other. And I have not discovered on my 70-year-old journey so far any medium more than music that has a way of reminding us of how connected we are and how much common ground we share. And if that's not the way forward, then I've misread the whole situation.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. For me, looking at your career, there are strong messages that come through, and like I was saying, around the prophetic voice in the wilderness, the clarion call to reorientate ourselves around that which is righteous and whole and good and healthy. Sorry, my messages are going off. Don't know if you can hear that.
No worries.
My wife's been in London all day working, and she's just letting me know she's coming home. So that's good.
Good. That's real cool.
So your themes, although you're not afraid, are you, to talk about that which is more earthy and human and, dare I say it, sensual at times. You've made a very intimate record with your wife, Ulrika, which is beautiful.
Thank you.
But you've not been afraid to talk about not just, I mean, people, I think, incorrectly polarize the spiritual and the
Profane.
earthly, and actually it's all
Yes,
one.
indeed.
We're holistic beings, it's all connected. And so for me it's not a surprise, but people want to pigeonhole, don't they? So maybe you at times have been trying to be pigeonholed as a blues artist or a gospel artist or a roots artist or a singer songwriter, and actually your career is all of it. I
Yeah,
wonder if you again could sum up in your own words your modus operandi? What is it your voice is saying? Your songs, your music.
For me, the shoulders that I stand on, Dave, are people who have spoken their truth in a powerful way that is natural to their experience. And in my case, you know, many of my heroes are from this African American culture
Mm.
that has triumphed
Yes.
so much oppression that we don't know the sum of it, and we may never know. But what I'm trying to say is somehow a whole people were able, through their spirituality and their sensuality
Mm.
and their wisdom and their sense of survival and self-worth, managed to survive centuries of um, amazing oppression. And when I say oppression, I'm not only talking about the whip and the lash. I'm talking about something psychological and spiritual, where you systematically have endeavored to suppress the spirit of a people and their humanity. And
Mm.
this is beyond all the physical blood and tears and sweat, you know, that the people have endured. But what I'm trying to say is, I think a lot about the music, Dave, that unites you and me, for example. Over a pond, over an ocean, you know, you're from England, I'm from the States originally. But there's a musical connection that the people of African American heritage have uh, gifted the world with. For whatever reasons, maybe it's the very dramatic, traumatic nature of slavery as itself uh, that gave rise to a survival instinct that produced a music that kept people not only carrying on, keeping on, but eventually was exported to the rest of the world and served as a kind of reminder of our humanistic glue.
Mm.
So I'm talking about skiffle music, I'm talking about gospel music,
Mm.
uh, choirs all across the globe. What an amazing uh, statement, cosmic justice. You know, to me, it's like that. I feel connected to this tradition of wonderful music that has influenced so much of the world's popular music. And I'm happy that it has been the conduit, you know, to connections with people from many, many countries around the world, man. This is a blessing beyond words, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could go on. I could
Mm.
go
Sure.
on. Mm.
Speaking personally, I believe African American artists, black artists in the UK,
Mm.
believe them easier than I believe white artists. I
Mm.
believe what they're singing is coming from a true place
Mm-hmm.
that is less. Of course, I'm generalizing, but
Yes, it's a very interesting. I salute your bravery of saying something like that, which can easily be misinterpreted. And certainly, you know, there are people who are looking for reasons to find differences instead of common ground. But I know what you mean. You know, the experience of being black in this modern world, you know, is a different experience from being white, so-called white. And you're aware of it. And to
mm,
not be aware of it is to be blind
mm,
to um, something really essential in our experience. So it's time, and I'm grateful anytime anybody, whoever they are, whatever the hue they bear, I'm grateful when people are not afraid to enter that conversation because it's a necessary, uncomfortable conversation,
mm.
but necessary to the point where to avoid it is to further on down the line encounter uh, much more discomfort. You know what I mean?
I agree. I agree, and it is uncomfortable. And I think as a white straight man, I fumble my words with it because I'm so acutely aware of my privilege, and also how quickly I can be tone deaf and how quickly I can assume and, you know, make assumptions.
As we all can.
Yeah, but I think this conversation, uncomfortable as it is thankfully one that the internet and technology is affording us to have
Mhm.
in a connected way, perhaps
Yes, it's
better than we've ever had.
that's true. That's true. You're right about that.
But there's a lot of listening I need to do, and people, white people need to do,
Hmm.
and yeah, a lot of listening
Yeah,
and a lot of shutting up.
yeah. But you know, it's encouraging to hear your comments. You know, and we're in a medium. We're doing some kind of podcast that's potentially available to
Mhm.
many, many people, and being aware of that um, spread. You know, it's really good to focus on what our intentions are when we have these kind of conversations. And I'm so happy when I meet somebody, and you are one of them, Dave, who enters the conversation um, with a lack of defensiveness that makes the conversation speed up. You know, there are people who are going to be very defensive when it comes to these issues, you know, and I get that. And I'm always encouraged when I find people who are further along, who I don't need to feel like I'm going to have to coddle them into letting go of some stuff, you know, so that they can just hear what I'm saying, you
Mm.
know. So I'm encouraged. I'm really encouraged. And the new album, Dear America, is just for me, a continuation of a conversation I've been having with myself and with my roots about um, how we got to where we are, and do we want to stay where we are?
Mm.
Do we want to be somewhere else? And if so, how do we get there, really?
Yeah. But what I love is that you're not at any point saying, like, disowning America.
Not at all.
It's a love letter. I have a brother-in-law and a wonderful sister-in-law in New York. They live in Brooklyn, and a wonderful niece there. And I've had the privilege of visiting New York
Hmm.
several times, and I've been to America, you know, and I love America. And I see a lot of parallels between the American situation culturally and socially as I see here in the UK where I live. Different, different nuances,
Yeah.
but very similar roots.
Yes. Yes.
And the conversation, you know, is happening.
Hmm.
Thank God, you know, we are finding
Yes.
ways to talk and to let down our defenses and thank goodness we're in that day that we and music like yours only helps the thought process behind those conversations and the listening that needs to happen. Because when I hear your heart, when I hear your words and your music, I just understand a little bit more
Hmm.
the lived experience of a Black American man,
Oh.
um,
Hmm.
and that's crucial to
So nice
understanding
to
our
hear.
world.
That's so nice to hear, you know, because in the end, that's what it's really about. It's about being able to hear a story that you maybe have not been able to take in um, for whatever reasons, and you know, basically being able to empathize with uh, someone else's experience, and finally coming to some kind of general conclusion that we are actually connected, you know, and not separate. Um, that's a huge epiphany that will
Mm.
save the world, as it were. You know what I mean?
It's true, but there's a pilgrim people feel to the Western Black voice that I recognize as a on a spiritual level. I think as a I identify as a pilgrim person in this land, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
there's a home for all of us, I believe, waiting to be found, and for us to arrive in. And I think so. Your narrative works on several levels at the same time. So as a white person, I still identify with, but as a believer, I identify as a pilgrim looking towards that home, that eternal homeland.
Exactly.
And I think that's the genius of the African American song book, as it were, that starts in the cotton fields, but we have a legacy of which you're a part to the modern day, where we hear the heartbeat of this pilgrim people who are not, they're in a foreign land, but there's hope for all, not just their own return in a spiritual sense, but for all of mankind. It's an open invitation to the table.
It is. That's the universality of the African American experience
Mm.
as translated into song. It has become an experience kind of distilled in words and music that have, through osmosis, seeped into the collective consciousness of the world. And it's a one of liberation. And all of humankind is on that journey,
Mm.
liberation journey. So it's universal, it's personal, it's cultural, it's um, it's powerful on so many levels because it speaks generationally. It speaks a language, perhaps a biblical oriented language that is familiar in the popular culture of many peoples. So it hits hard,
Mm.
when you have a person of faith like Mahalia Jackson or some unknown singer who got caught on tape, in a work camp.
Mm.
What you're hearing is some kind of universal truth expressed through an individual, and it's inspiring.
Yeah, and it chimes with those of us
Mm,
who
well
hear
put.
that same
Well put. Yes.
that same homesickness.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a journey, and it's so wonderful to, as I refer to that birds of a feather. You know, saying again, it's like music is a way of communicating in an incredibly broad manner. Um, I don't know another language that has that capability
Mm.
to bring together in one, kind of vibration or one feeling, so many people at once, and all people have this talent, folk music of all the world is united,
Mm.
is connected, and there's something very particularly powerful about just the African American folk music because it embodies the experience of so many people.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about, Jews in Poland. We're talking about Armenians. We're talking about, Hutus, and we're talking about everybody, who's ever
Mm.
had any experience of oppression. They
Mm.
can relate to that powerful story told in song.
And also
So
the experience of pain, because there's pain in that story, and that's
absolutely,
universal too.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
So
that universal blues.
yeah.
Hmm.
So coming to Held by Trees, this project that I've had the immense pleasure of developing over the last year or so, and you very kindly agreed to play on, and you have played on a few of the tracks, and I'm excited to share this music. You're on the next single, which is coming out 12th of November, called Mysterium. You found a way into that piece of music, and there's another piece that you're playing on, and I just want to say thank you, really, not just for me, but on behalf of all of those who are following this project, who are loving the collision of different musicians playing on these pieces. You're playing alongside Robbie McIntosh, you're playing alongside David Knopfler from Dire Straits, and you're playing alongside Martin Ditcham on drums, and
Yeah,
Ben Taylor on double bass. It's a strange melting pot of talent, but it's somehow, I think, I'm biased, but I think it works.
it made beautiful music, Dave. you know, to collaborate with anybody, you know, really involves some kind of real um, sympathetic vibrating. You know, I can't
Mm,
just, you know, jump on somebody's recording because they like me and they want me to be on something that they're doing. You know, I have to feel it, and if I don't feel it, I can't really be a part of it. And when I heard this Mysterium track, you know, I just felt like, oh yeah, I'm gonna find what I have to say with this, you know, feeling, and hmm, it'll be a voice that's sparsely expressing my connection to what's going on around me, because what was already there was something so lovely. And Robbie, as a guitar player, is somebody who I've admired for a long time and even had the pleasure of recording with
oh,
on
right,
an album.
excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, on an album of mine back in the day. And so I know Robbie's touch, and it was just, you know, this is the thing I'm trying to say about music. Unexpectedly came your invitation to be part of your project, and it was not only an invitation to be part of some beautiful music making for a beautiful, you know, uh, intent, but it was a reconnection with some musicians who I've either known of or even played with, you know, and admired. So it's sort of like you're gathering the tribe with your project, you know, and every little project here and there that gathers the tribe is, I think, you know, contributing to that, you know, critical mass thing that we need.
Mm,
We just need to pump up
I love
that,
that vision.
you know, we need to go there, and we're doing it, and it's great. I'm happy. I'm relieved to be in the band, you know.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for your time today. I've got kids here upstairs. I've got kids at the door, so I'm going to say goodbye to you, Eric, and thank you
Hey,
again for your time, man.
thank you.
And
Thank
we'll
you for
talk
your
again
time.
soon.
We shall. And, you know, Godspeed with everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. Much love to you,
Yeah,
brother,
man.
and to Ulrika. Speak soon.
All right.
Bye,
Hasta
guys.
luego.
Thanks for
Take care.
watching.
Bye.
Bye.